Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on The Living and the Lost by Feldman. Set during the Allied occupation of Berlin after World War II, The Living and the Lost by Feldman follows Millie Mosbeck, a German Jew who managed to escape to America with her brother before they were taken away by the Nazis, but the rest of their family was left behind. Haunted by the ghosts of her past, Millie has returned to Berlin, taking up work in an office responsible for rooting out Nazis and keeping them from publishing in newspapers. While Millie has hatred for all things German, her boss, Major Harry Sutton, seems to have a desire to be fair to the Germans, rather than condemning them all. Millie has to learn to let go of the past and come to terms with decisions made during crisis, all while trying to understand the meaning of forgiveness. First up, a quick disclaimer. I did win this book through a Goodreads giveaway back in last year of 2021. So I'm just now getting around to this book, you guys. Better late than never. But yeah, this is an advanced reader's copy that I did win through Goodreads. So thank you very much, Goodreads. So let's begin with this review. It's always so refreshing to read a book that takes place after World War II. There's so many books set during World War II, and it's kind of gotten to the point that sometimes a lot of the books feel a little repetitive. They're kind of, even though they might have different characters and different situations, it's like they're still handling a very similar subject matter, just in very different ways, and it's kind of gotten a little repetitive. So yeah, whenever there's books that take place after World War II, I really look forward to those types of books, because that's not explored as often. And I think what's interesting in books like this that take place post World War II, what the books are tackling in such interesting ways is, just because the war is over, it doesn't mean that people are still not suffering. Because, like I said, this is taking place during the Allied occupation of Berlin, and there was a lot of chaos and damage and destruction that happened kind of right there at the end of the war and whatnot, when the Allies were coming through. And yeah, Berlin kind of just fell apart because I believe it was like bombed very terribly. Lots of people died. So this book is kind of tackling that whole thing, that, where do you put all the blame? Is it fair? Is it fair to blame an entire country for the mistakes of those who made all of the decisions and caused the most death and harm? Not every German was a terrible person. Yes, there were the people who supported the Nazis and what was going on, but then there were other people who didn't, that were trying to make a difference and whatnot. But then there's also kind of that thing, the people who were just kind of neutral. The idea that's kind of explored in this book, like willful ignorance, if you will. People who just kind of ignored what was really going on. They just stayed neutral. They weren't for the bad side, and they weren't for the good side either. They're just there in the middle, just minding their own business, trying to live their own lives. So this book is tackling a lot of interesting things in that regard. Do you blame a whole freaking country for the mistakes of those who were actually making the decisions, And World War II was complex. And not only was the war complex, but the aftermath was just as complex, if not more so. Because once again, what do you do about the losers in that situation? So our main character, her name is Millie. She's a young woman. She's a German Jew. And right before things got like really bad and really intense in Germany, she and her brother were able to escape to America and start their lives over in America. But unfortunately, her mom, her dad, and her little sister, through some circumstances that happened, which this book explores, through some circumstances, they were not able to escape. So once again, Millie and her brother, they managed to escape and make a new life in Germany, but still this whole thing of, okay, what's happening to the rest of our family? We have no idea what's going on with them. So at the core of this novel is definitely this whole mystery. What happened to Millie's family that was left behind? Why does she feel such guilt and shame about leaving them behind, and the fact that she has survivor's guilt. What is dragging her down? And that definitely gets explored throughout this book through like flashback chapters. And this book is definitely focusing on the whole thing of survival, what people have to do in order to survive during unthinkable situations and moments of crisis. It's like there's really no right thing to do, and there's really no wrong thing to do either when it comes to like self-preservation. And I think the biggest theme presented in this book is definitely the whole concept of forgiveness. Because as we do get Millie's story through the flashbacks, is she able to forgive herself at some point, or is she never going to be able to forgive herself for what happened? And yeah, can she forgive essentially the enemy, if you will? Because when she first arrives back in Berlin, she takes up a position in an office. This office is responsible for essentially rooting out Nazis and keeping them from publishing in like newspapers and whatnot. Denazification, as they kind of refer to it in this book. Getting people out of that Nazi mindset and trying to reestablish this country, root out the issues and the problems. So she arrives at this office and she gets this job weeding out Nazis and whatnot. But yeah, she comes into the whole situation because of just everything that went down during the war and her own personal ties to that. And yeah, the fact that she is a German Jew, she walks into this situation just really anti-German. It doesn't matter if you were a Nazi, it doesn't matter if you weren't, if you were, it doesn't matter if you were good, bad, whatever. She hates the entirety of Germany. And that's her entire mindset. And so as they're trying to kind of, root out the good and the bad citizens and whatnot, it's like she doesn't really care. It's like she sees everybody as bad. She has her own personal hate and prejudice within this. And to make matters worse, her boss, his name, he's a major. His name is Harry Sutton. To make matters worse, Sutton, he's like I said, he's her boss, and he's also helping root out Nazis and whatnot, keeping them from publishing. But yeah, he has a desire to really be fair. He has a desire to be fair and really kind of examine situations, examine an individual, whereas Millie is not willing to examine an individual at all. She sees like the whole. And I think Ellen Feldman did a great job of tackling some of these really weighty, hefty, complex issues. Because it makes you, the reader, wonder, what would I have done in a situation like this? It's easy being here in the present, being like, oh, I would have done this, I would have done that, but yeah, I mean, it kind of makes, it forces you to kind of really think, it's very thought-provoking, and like, what would I have done in Millie's situation? What would my behavior be like towards somebody? There's definitely a great sense of like raw honesty that's presented in this book, and I really appreciated that, because once again, it just really makes you tackle these situations and questions head on and ponder the ramifications. I would definitely recommend this book if you like things that deal with World War II or just post World War II in general. Once again, the book is definitely tackling some interesting, thought-provoking issues. It has really great characters. I really like the character of Millie. She's independent and educated, but yeah, she's a scarred individual. She's definitely very scarred from the demons of her past and the things that she can't let go of, the things dealing with her family, and yeah, she's not really living. She's kind of living in the past and not moving forward. And like I said, that's a big part of this story, is she able to move on? Is she able to some extent, is she able to forgive but never forget? And I really like that this novel took place during like the Allied occupation of Berlin, because you do, as a reader, you get to experience and see what things looked like and the destruction, and how kind of just everyday Germans were dealing with it, and the losses that they were facing, and even some of the atrocities. And yeah, once again, just because the war is over, there's still atrocities being committed just every which way, just different groups. So yeah, if you're looking for something that's engaging and interesting and tackling some interesting things, I think you'll get a lot out of this book, and I think there'll be some truly meaningful things that you can gather from it. So you guys, that is it for my thoughts and feelings on The Living and the Lost. It almost sounds like the title of like a soap opera or something. It's very dramatic. Yeah, once again, I really thoroughly liked this book. I appreciated what Ellen Feldman was doing right with it. It definitely put me in like an emotional place, you know, thinking heavily about certain topics. But yeah, you guys, have you guys read The Living and the Lost? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you plan on reading it sometime in the future? Just let me know. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.